Hi, my name is Emily Cabral, and I did my research story on a story of the flood. And this one is by the author and the name of Albert Regan. And reason being why I chose this story is because due to my background as being a Catholic person in faith, every time I read something and I see a correlation with the Bible, I find it really, really interesting. I just think it's really cool how everybody has a different perspective on how they think everything was made, as far as like in American Indian literature, even in other religion, beliefs, and things like that. Because it's really good to have your brain be open-minded to things, because sometimes you find out other beliefs that you may want to switch to later on and not stick with the one that you were baptized with. So that's why I thought it was kind of interesting. And like I said, a lot of correlations that I saw in the Bible. In my paper, I actually mentioned there was a lot of correlation with the chapter of Genesis in the Bible, of the whole creation story, and along with Noah's Ark. So those are the two main things that I saw, really, really big connections. Reason being why I say the creation story is because the story goes on to say that how everything was made. It starts off with someone named Quati, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and he is considered as a god. So that's my correlation with how he comes off as someone to be God in the creation story in the Bible. So he goes on to say that he made land, he made the waters, along with animals, and with humans, only mentioning males too. Same thing that God did in the creation story in the Bible. So kind of interesting. Along with that too, there comes another person. So there's two main characters, Quati and the chief Thunderbird. He is considered someone that is the devil. So that does happen with God in the Bible. Not really in the creation story, but it is mentioned in other times, but it is mentioned in Noah's Ark, because a lot of the issues with Mother Nature and just a lot of things going on there. So what happens is Chief Thunderbird comes in and he decides he wants to kill all the sea animals and things like that, kind of just disrupt everything that Quati's been doing and working for. So, obviously that doesn't really work out. Like, Quati put all this work in and he thought he was doing everything great. Everything was awesome. Years had passed and then this bird comes in, totally ruins the whole thing. So they end up fighting. There is a war that happens. And it doesn't just affect the waters because the sea level ends up rising. It goes so high that it covers the mountains. So you can't even see much. It's just really bad. It ruined a lot of the people. They weren't able to canoe as fast. They can't really recover. Same thing with the animals. A lot of them suffered through this whole thing. That happened a couple times. Years, days pass. This happened. So, as the story goes, they have to come to an agreement, right? How else is this going to get settled? So before I get into that part, there is some location that is discussed in here too, as far as where this all happened. So it seems as if this happened in the Pacific, along with in the Nia Bay on the Strait of Juan to Fuca to the Pacific, making an island of Cape Flattery. So that is some geographic location for you as far as where it was made in the story. And so, like I said, they have to make a solution. They have to make this happen. Otherwise, it's just going to keep ruining each other's land and so forth. So, Quati ends up actually killing Thunderbird. Yeah. So, that basically ended up ruining the whole thing. Not ruining, but that's how the solution was. That's how the problem was solved. That was the solution, so to speak. Definitely something that's a trickster story, like our teacher has mentioned in class, because he uses violence to get what he wants, and clearly it works to his advantage because then there's nobody there to fight him back. So he kills him and everything goes back to normal. The sea levels end up stopping to rise after so long. The people are finally able to recover from all this too, along with the animals, because with all this ocean flow and rising and then going down, rising and then going down, that's not good for the people. I mean, humans can't really do that, nor can the animals. I mean, with such a, like, the oxygen and everything in the water, like, how are you supposed to just live through that? It's not really possible, you know? So with this whole thing, there was some land that was divided because their people did go three different ways, as in like routes. So they all kind of sprouted and went their own way in their canoes. Where they ended up going is some of the people called the Quileutes ended up staying at Ha. It's H-O-H, not too sure how to pronounce that one. Some went to Kemicum and some in the Pacific. So they all went their own way. Most likely, I would assume, because some ways were just easier than others, of course, considering all this happened. I mean, how do you know one direction isn't going to do that? So, and plus, I mean, families had already been made. This was years past, so must have been really hard for a lot of the people, I could imagine, for sure. So, but at least there were survivors, so that's good. So like I said, the story is a trickster story, but I also mentioned in my paper that I believe it is educational and explanatory. Reason being for educational is because it gives a perspective on how this story was told and how the story of the flood happened and how the creation story in their way was made. So educational in that aspect. It lets people know if they don't have a belief or a tradition to believe in, they have this one. Explanatory, also to explain to others how things can be done if it is not in your best interest and it's not working out for you to get it done. Not in the best way that my opinion wouldn't happen, but for him it worked out, of course. Well, him or her, they don't really specify. And back to my whole back to the comparison with the creation story makes sense because, like I said, they talk about how everything was made at first and everything was dandy. And then with Noah's Ark, how there was a lot of issues. The animals suffered, the people suffered, all on there. And land was compromised, water was compromised, some animals, everything. So there's a lot of correlation in there with the two similarities with both of them. And I believe that concludes my whole explanation for this. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.